Hello.
Listen on.
Hi, Professor.
Good afternoon.
Professor, I have a question.
Sure. What's up?
Are you okay?
I'm right on the line of I'm probably a little too sick to be to be.
Oh, yeah, because I don't used to see you like this.
I know, low energy. I know.
You're
We'll
supposed to leave a post that I am sick. I'm not gonna smile today.
I thought about it. I know, yeah, no smiling today. Well, we'll see when other people get here. I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit and maybe show a video. But yeah, I'm not my normal self, that's for sure. But I'm doing my best. I'm okay. I think I
You
have
show up, but Professor, you show up.
I think I just have Halloween crazy. The nephews were just crazy. So I don't know if it's just Halloween. It was a little cold this weekend too. I think I don't know. But how
Yeah,
are you,
was
Sana?
cold.
Are you okay? How are your kids?
Everyone is okay. It's cold here. I am at work and the heater is not working.
Oh no.
Yeah, they're supposed to fix it tomorrow or after tomorrow.
Okay, well I
I'm
hope it's
freezing a little bit. Sometimes when I work so fast, I feel hot, warm, but today, no, I'm freezing.
I know I was really cold this weekend too.
Yeah, yeah, I felt cold yesterday.
Well, I'm glad
Was
you're okay. I hope they fix it soon.
sure, yeah, they will. Yeah, manager here.
Okay, good. That's good.
Thank you, Professor. Get well soon.
Hey, Linda.
Hi, Professor. How are you?
I'm a little sick today. I feel like I don't sound like my normal self, but I'm okay. How are you?
I'm good. Just let me know, like it's a flu.
I don't
Are you
think
vaccinated?
so. I don't think it's flu. I don't think it's COVID because I don't have no fever, no cough. It's all like sore throat and headache and kind of you can hear my voice, right? It's
Yeah, I
Can
like
you
can hear
smell
your
something?
voice.
it's like a head cold. I think I'd just say head cold would be my guess.
Yeah, just try to take like some liquid stuff, like a warm liquid stuff. Yes,
Lots of tea and lemon
Professor, can you smell
lemon.
your
Yeah,
coffee?
and stuff like that. Yeah,
like I think lemon and ginger. It's better with honey. It's better
I,
for you.
I agree. Yeah, no, lots of lemon this morning. Lots and lots of lemon.
But
Professor,
just like,
can
are
you?
you vaccinated or not?
Yes, I'm vaccinated.
Yes, thank God. It's better.
Yeah, I'm vaccinated. I don't want to. If I have COVID, I just don't want to take the risk, and I want to make sure
Yeah.
that
No, it's a bad experience. No.
yeah. But like I said, I don't think it's. I know for COVID, of course, fever is a really um, big
Yeah,
symptom.
coughing.
I'm luckily please no fever yesterday or today.
Yeah,
I
because
have
my
read
sister, she
that I never experienced fever.
You've never had a fever?
No.
Wow, look at you.
Yeah.
She's bragging, I think.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. I was like, I didn't even know I have COVID. And then I lost my smell. I was like, oh, okay, I have COVID.
Yeah, I think it's just that time too. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's just the weather change. Like when it
It
goes,
is. It's raining like crazy.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think the weather change. And like I said, I think you guys know with little kids, it's at school, they're just like mega germs, you know what I mean?
They are germs.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, Keith, saying hi as people come in. But I'm okay. We'll see how long I can last today. I went to the lab in the morning and it was okay, but we'll see.
Have some soup. Warm chicken soup.
I had no breakfast, had lots of tea in the morning, then I had warm soup for lunch, then I took a little nap for 30 minutes, and now here I am, you know.
Yeah, you just take some rest for yourself. Like it's better.
Yeah. We'll see. How are you guys? How are you guys doing with the book? Are you done with the book? Are you
Yeah,
yeah,
I
are you
done.
you're done,
I'm
Linda?
done. Yeah, and I feel so bad. I feel so sad. I don't know.
I know.
I almost was crying about. I don't know.
I know. Yeah. Susanna, you were done last week, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So
again,
now
like the third chapter, it just like I can't. It's like whatever the doctor is doing with the kid, that's
yeah.
pretty stressful.
Yeah. Okay, I know. So Linda finished, and it was almost too much. Susanna finished last week. So now,
Tragic end. Tragic end.
yeah, the end. We could talk. We'll talk a lot about it. I don't know about today, but we'll see. How about Sanad, Tahmina, Aki? Are you guys done with the book? Where are you?
No, Professor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
I have very hard 2 weeks of work,
Yeah.
and I'm so busy. I'm working in the morning early till night, like
Yeah.
8, 9. So it's I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But I
No,
promise
that's okay.
I will try to make it on this week.
No, that's okay. And how about you, Tahmina? Did you say that were you finished?
I have finished the reading.
Okay, good. Excellent. Hi, Tahmina. I see you in the chat. Thank you. And Aki, are you done with the book? Where are you?
Yes, I'm done.
Okay, most
And
people are done.
yeah, maybe I think after finish this course, I don't want to read again.
No, Aki. No.
I don't want to read again. Yeah, it's so sad.
Yeah, no more literature for you, Aki. No more literature.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should talk about. Thank you. Okay, thank you guys for telling me. Excuse me.
It's funny, when I was like pretty young ages, I like to read detectives and it's very fun books. I never liked this strategy type, and it's sad. Love stories is just too annoying.
Yeah. Well, hopefully,
Yeah.
I think we should. Today I want to keep talking about character analysis a little bit, because that's the kind of essay that I want to have you guys write at the end of class. But I think next week maybe we can talk a lot about the end of the book. But I'll say this: remember, it's not a true story, right? And like they say at the beginning, if this is a parable, if it's like a fable, if it's almost like a fairy tale, that doesn't mean that the ending is not sad. But I do think that instead of thinking about this like a true story, it is interesting to think about these characters as like big symbols or deeper meaning, like what. So if we think about this like a parable, like we were saying, what is that telling us? Because you're right, when we think about it like a true story, like a real mom and dad, it's like, oh my God, this is horrible, excuse me. Oh Lord. Uh-oh. Hold on. Yeah, it might not be a very long class today, you guys. If I can't talk, this is like the only thing I'm good at, is talking. So if I can't talk, that's a problem. But anyway, that's what
Take a break.
I know, yeah. Get out of here. I do want to. We'll watch the video that I have, and then we'll talk about it. So I'll tell you what I wanted to do today. But anyway, that's my big idea. If you're done with the book and you're thinking, Jeff is a monster. You know, why did we read this book? Just remember, it's not a true story. And if we think about this as like symbols and sort of big, deeper examples of like a parable kind of story, maybe that'll help everybody feel a little better. So here was my plan for today, and then we'll see what we can get through with my congested nose and my coughing here. I do have a short video that will give us some more information about character analysis. And then we'll see how much time, if we want to end early and make sure that we finish this novel next week, we could do that. But I wanted to leave time for questions and answers, and then do kind of like a workshop style. So before I go to the YouTube video I have for us, and it's pretty short, but it's got great information about what a character analysis is and how to start doing a character analysis, because next week I'll introduce the sort of character analysis essay that I started to introduce a few weeks ago, but I'll show that to you guys next week. Do you have just any general questions right now, either about the book or the class or anything that's on your mind today, you guys, for week 11?
No,
Tahmina, yeah.
no, there is no question.
Okay, no, nothing. Cool. Aki says no. Okay, life is good. Then let's play this character analysis video, talk about it a little bit, and then we'll see what time it is and how we're feeling and how my voice is, and then we'll make a plan. But at least let's watch this and talk about it together, okay? So more ways to go through your character analysis. And I'll turn on the subtitles and make sure you guys can hear. Okay.
Today we'll be going through a couple of ways that you can analyze a
Sorry, I don't know why the closed captions are in Vietnamese.
character in order to complete a full character analysis.
Hold
The
on.
first thing you should look at is the role of the character. Are they a protagonist?
Sorry, they were not in Vietnamese a second ago. Hold on one second. That is amazing. Wow, if these continue in Viet, then it's not my day, you guys. It's in English. She just has an Australian
By doing
accent.
these, you can figure out the role that they play within.
Let's see. Okay, good. There we go. All right.
Today we'll be going through a couple of ways that you can analyze a character in order to complete a full character analysis. The first thing you should look at is the role of the character. Are they a protagonist or an antagonist? Are they dynamic, static, minor, major, a foil, or perhaps a character for symbolic means? What is the importance of that character, as well as what is their position in society? By doing these, you can figure out the role that they play within the text. The next thing you should look at is their motivation. What influences this character's decision? What do they value, aka find important? What are their goals, hopes, and dreams? And what are their views of the world around them? Then you should look at their actions. Their motivations will largely shape their actions, so it's important to look at their behavior, their attitudes, and how these impact on others, or if it shows an inner struggle or conflict within the character itself. The easiest thing to analyze is the character's traits, aka their personality, what makes them flawed, their strengths and their weaknesses, and whether these change throughout the story. It is also important to note whether they are positive or negative traits and how these shape the character as they move along the plot. Relationships are also important to be able to analyze how they interact with others, how others view them, and how they view others, as well as how society views that character in particular. It's important to note their family relationships, any enemies, as well as acquaintances. Most importantly is how the character develops as the story moves along. How do they change? Do they grow as a character? And what events have forced them to change? It's important to compare the character from start to finish and see how this is impacted by the conflict. Dialogue is also key to ensure you understand what they are saying, how they're speaking, as this can tell you a lot about their location, their age, as well as their social status, and how they express emotions. It's also important to create a list of quotes that the character says that you can refer back to later on. Finally, it is most important to realize the author's intention. What purpose does this character serve? What is the author trying to communicate? And does the character help convey a certain theme or idea that the author is trying to portray? Once you have developed a thorough understanding of these 8 key concepts in a character, it becomes a lot easier to write a character analysis and connect characters with the major themes and issues in the text. As always, thanks for watching.
Okay, so I know this is a short video, but there is a lot of really good stuff in here. Let me see if I can zoom out and pause here. And it's really the way that we're going to start thinking about analyzing the characters in this book. I'm trying to see if I can get the full picture without a box in it here. 1 second. Can I close that? That's good enough for now. Okay. So we talked about this a little bit when I introduced the characters a couple weeks ago, and you can go back and look at that PowerPoint as well. But some things that they talk about here are their roles, motivations, actions. We've talked about that a lot the last few weeks, right? Traits. I want to make sure we answer any vocab questions we might have. Relationships. What's this one? I think narrative growth or change. Dialogue.
Trace is like a merit.
Good. Yeah. Does anyone know this character traits? Has anyone seen that? Know what it is? Character traits are basically, like, we could say it's almost like their personality. Like their traits are, if you could say, for example, that there's a person who is very generous. There's a person who is very friendly. These are sort of their personality type. You know what I mean?
Like it could be like a feature, like let's say.
Yeah, feature's good. You'd see this as like personality traits or personality characteristics or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
6, 7, 8. Yeah, these are the 8 that they have listed here, and this is the one that's in change. Okay, so I wanted to talk about, hold on real quick. So today, what I really wanted to talk about is, I know that I talked about last week, I got mixed up here. So notice here where it says protagonist or antagonist up here in role of the character. Again, I think I talked about this very briefly, but I wanted to give some more information on these sort of vocab words that we can use for doing character analysis. Did I talk about protagonist and antagonist and what this means at all? Not yet. I'll do it right now. Role of character. I know I talked about the foil really quickly last week. Protagonist. This is really simple, you guys, but Protagonist is the good guy, antagonist is the bad guy. It really is that simple. And especially because for so many of you guys have kids, or so many of you guys know from kids movies, or even just movies nowadays in the United States, it's always good guy, bad guy, right? If it's a Superman movie, Superman is the protagonist and whoever's the bad guy is the antagonist. In all the Marvel movies, right? Captain America, protagonist. Batman, protagonist. Protagonist just means good guy, and antagonist means bad guy. If we think about the Pearl, it's interesting, right? Because we don't really have a one really good and one really bad guy. But I think the Doctor in this story is probably an antagonist, right? Like he doesn't really do anything nice. He kind of hurts the people that we care about in the story. Probably the antagonist. Now, just as an interesting question, though, as a way to start thinking about character analysis, do you guys think that Kino, if I say protagonist is the good guy, antagonist is the bad guy, do you guys think, is Kino the protagonist of this story?
Yes.
Yeah, Susanna says yes. Anybody else have an opinion?
But his wife is more protagonist than his.
Tahmina says, I think Juana is actually the protagonist. I understand. Good. Anybody else have an opinion? I'm checking the chat now real quick. Aki says yes. Yeah, I think it's, this can get interesting when we have characters with ambiguity. Again, that word that we talked about with poetry, but is so important for literature. If you read the end of the book, Kino makes some decisions that have really, really bad things that happen as a result, are really bad, really painful. But I don't know that he's not evil. He's not trying to cause people harm. So I think it's probably fair to say the protagonist is usually good guys, usually the main character. So I think Kino probably is, and usually creates a problem or difficulty for the main character. Right, so on the video, which I'll post the link to, when here it says protagonist or antagonist, protagonist is usually the main character. They're the one that the story is about, and usually they're the good guy. The antagonist is the person that is in that protagonist's way, right? So maybe we could say in the Pearl, maybe we have two protagonists, right? Because I think you're right, Tahmina. I mean, Juana's a very, very important character, I think absolutely. So when it says protagonist and antagonist, that's what we're talking about there, right? Now, the second group of words that's pretty easy, and I think, again, I talked about this with the beggar characters, major characters and minor characters. It's exactly like you might think about from other books that you read or from movies, right? Major characters have a big part in the story, and most of the action in the book is connected to these characters. These are our major characters. For example, in the Pearl, who are our major characters?
Kino, the wife.
I agree. Kino, Juana. Anybody else?
Boito.
Yeah, I think so. Even though he doesn't get to talk too much. And I think there maybe we could say two other major characters.
Like his brother.
Good. Yeah. Juan Tomas.
Juan Tomas.
Apollonia. I agree. By the end, I think this is kind of it, right? And then there are the minor characters, right? And these are kind of, they're in the story, and maybe they're very important, right? Maybe they do something very important, but there's just not a lot of the events in the story are connected to them. So they
the Doctor?
Yes, good. May have an important part in the story, but most of the action in the book is not directly about these characters. But I love it. The Doctor, who else?
The Pearl Sellers.
Good. Yep, the Pearl buyers. Yeah, I agree.
The trackers.
Church.
Yes, the trackers at the end for my people who have read. I agree.
Yeah. Mhm.
We said the beggars. We talked about the beggars a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And maybe that's it. The rest
Even
of
the neighbors. Even the neighbors when they were like around him when he was talking about.
Yeah, Kino's neighbors. We do hear about them. Like we always hear in the different pages. Oh, his neighbors were getting close to the house, or they were listening, they were watching. You're right, but we don't even really get names for a lot of these characters, right?
Yeah.
Good. And so that's all minor and major. That's pretty basic. I mean, like, so if I, if you were asked, I'm going to ask you next week, I'll probably introduce the final essay, and I'll probably ask you to write about Kino or Juana, right? You'll write about a major character, because in this book, we only have a couple major characters. But if you were doing sort of a more general character analysis, even though Aki is saying, I'm never reading after this, if you're doing a more general reading, you could talk about, your character analysis essay. You could do a paragraph about the minor characters, or a couple paragraphs about minor characters, right? So things to be aware of when we're talking about the role the character plays. So that's what we mean: major and minor, dynamic and static. Do you want to just guess from those words, dynamic and static? Dynamic, characters that change throughout the book. Static, characters that do not change throughout the book. For example, our doctor, we said that the doctor is an antagonist, right? The doctor is a minor character. We could also say, does the doctor change or stay the same in this book?
No, he changed at the end.
When
when he went again to, because at first he didn't he refused to treat the baby, and then at the end of the book tried to treat him for money, because he heard that he get a parole.
Oh, I love this. Okay, that's a great example. So, okay, his actions change, but do we think that his personality changed?
No, his intentions, no, there's no.
Oh, I love this. Good. And now we're talking about some of the things, and I see Susanna's hand too. So, but I love this because, and another thing that I wanted to talk about today is on this slide where it talks about motivation, right? So, Linda, you're exactly correct. His actions change when he says, take him away, go away, go away. And then later on, he shows up at Kino's house, right? Now that is like, oh, that's interesting. But that's why that idea of intention and motivation, all of that stuff's really interesting too. So anyway, so would you say, so Linda, just to go back, his actions change, but his motivation doesn't change. So in this case, what do you think? A dynamic or static character?
Maybe static, it's not dynamic.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's a perfect example that you're using, Linda, because we are talking mostly about their almost, we could say, like their personality, I like, again, motivation and intention. So in the Pearl, the doctor is an example of a static character because his motivation remains the same: money, right? He only goes to see Kino because he knows about the Pearl now.
Yeah.
But I love that example. I love that example. Good. How about, do we have who's a dynamic character in this book? Just as an example, who do you think changes throughout this book? And dynamic and static don't have to be good and bad either.
The people for the.
Who changes? Oh, hi, Frank. And who do you think changes in this book? And Frank, and then Susanna.
Yeah, go ahead, Susanna.
No, go ahead.
You want to go first, Frank, or do you want Susanna to go?
Yeah, Susanna, go ahead.
Frank's like, I just got here. Yeah, Susanna, tell us, who changes?
I think Juana changed.
Ooh, I love it. Tell us how and why.
Because in the beginning, she was agree with Kino. You know, she was thinking the pearl is gonna change their life, but then she saw the harm that she's getting, the family is getting from the pearl, and she changed. She
Mm.
changed her um
But
intention.
excuse me, Susanna, I think she was from beginning doesn't like the pearl, and she was
The pearl.
just feeling it's not good for them.
She liked the
Oh, I
pearl.
love
No,
it.
she
Yeah,
liked the pearl,
go
and she
ahead,
was
Susanna.
agree with Kino. And she also, it says like she wanted it, like, and also the speaker, like the writer was writing, it says, you know, it is not good to want something really bad,
Yeah,
right?
we talked about that one last week. Yeah.
Was holding her breath, right, to see if the pearl is there.
Yeah,
And
but you know, like I feel she was obeying her husband
no,
just as a wife.
Oh yeah.
But as a feeling, I think she was not accepting that thing.
no,
I
she
don't
love
know.
get
As
married.
I read it, as I read the story.
Yes,
I
but
love it.
she wanted to get married through church too. She wanted a new skirt. She wanted a new suit.
Yes.
She wanted it, so she was agree with him.
It's
But
interesting.
changed it.
You know, there is a difference between the desire that you wanted to do something and your feeling. So I think her feeling was just this thing is evil, is thing
Mm.
that it's not, you know, it's not good for them
Yes,
Mm.
the beginning.
from beginning.
No, in the beginning, she was not thinking it's evil.
Let's. I see Tahmina's hand. Tahmina, do you have an opinion about Juana? Does she change?
From my point of view, no. She was not changed because as she had the same opinion from first up to end. She doesn't like the pearl because it was not good for them as she think. But I think the Kino changed because at the first he loved a lot the pearl. At the end, he faced with a lot of difficulty and he accepted his wife's thoughts and he threw out the pearl, I think.
Now, I love it. I love it. I love it. I think Susanna picked the most challenging character. Like, does Juana change or not change? That is a deep question. But let me ask you, Susanna, do you think Kino changes?
Yes.
Yeah, I think now it's very interesting, right? Like, and again, I love this. I love it. I do think there is evidence, because remember, for character analysis, I said look at the actions. I do think that you could say there's evidence that Juana changes. Like at first, she maybe agrees with Kino or she wants the same thing as Kino. And I also think there's evidence to say no, from the very beginning, Juana is suspicious of the pearl. She just supports her husband. This is this man and woman dynamic that we talked about.
Yeah.
And that so we could say that Kino is the one who is the only character who really changes, because I will say this to I'm not saying who I agree with, but to say to Susanna, they're early in the book, though, I will say, she does start saying, maybe about halfway through, right? She says to Kino, get rid of it, throw it back in the ocean. But you're right, Susanna, earlier in the book, and Linda, you were saying she does want the church, right? She can imagine those things. So Juana is a really interesting example, I think.
When it's
yeah, go ahead.
That, you know, she already saw like there is a threat to family. There was people coming to the brush houses. They were digging in the soil. So
yeah,
there was something for her to not want it. Otherwise, why she would not want it?
Yeah, that's interesting. So maybe if you say, okay, well, Kino changes at the end of the story and Juana changes in chapter 3 or chapter 4, maybe she changes sooner or something. It's interesting. Like I said, Juana is a really interesting character in this book, I think.
But she was obeying her husband. That's a whole different story.
That's very interesting. Yeah.
Obeying the husband, because even, I mean, whoever read the book, they will see it. Like in the end, like even the husband beat her up, but she got up and she went after the Kino. And she was obeying the husband because she loved the husband and she was thinking that's okay. That's how it's supposed to be.
Yes.
My personal opinion.
Well, and sometimes in the example where Kino is violent against Juana, it's an example where, again, dynamic and static doesn't mean good and bad or protagonist and antagonist, right? Because in a way, you could say, well, we wish that Juana was more dynamic. If we're thinking dynamic means changing, we wish that she was dynamic about some of the man and woman stuff, right? Because it's not okay, right? It's not appropriate. It's not good that Juana is just like, okay, he hit me and that's okay. I mean, we kind of, hopefully, we understand, right? We understand she wants to keep herself safe. She wants to keep her baby safe. We understand all of that. But the reader, I think, especially now in 2021, we think, wow, be more dynamic. You need, we want you to say like, heck no, this isn't okay. How dare you? This is wrong. So again, it's when we start to practice character analysis, remember, there's no right and wrong answer for some of this stuff because we're practicing it for the first time. And what you'll find out, what you will see is even in a book like this, short book with only a few characters, at different moments in the story or different examples, different actions, they might be able to have a different analysis, right, too. Like I said, her perception of taking care of her family is very dynamic, right? She cares a lot. She's willing to do anything. She'll change. Her perception, her attitude about taking care of herself or how she should treat herself is too static because she lets Kino be violent. She lets Kino tell her what to do. There's lots of complicated ideas, right? And I see in the chat, Aki says, I think that Kino is dynamic. And hopefully at the end, if you finish the book, Kino throws the pearl back in. So he does change eventually. But then Aki says, I think Juana is wavering in her feelings. So I know both of those thoughts. Yes, that's exactly correct, Aki, at different times, at different moments. So we could also say his motivations receive, even though his actions change when he visits Kino at his house, the reader knows that the doctor is only visiting because Kino found the pearl. I also wanted to make a note of characters can be dynamic at different moments and static at other moments in the story. That's exactly like Linda and Susanna and Aki were talking about Juana, right? At different times, she's very static and she stays the same. And the reader's like, oh my God, no, please do something. And other times she does, right? She can be, she can go along with her husband. Absolutely. Okay, again, we're going to practice more of this next week when I'm more functional. But does this basic dynamic and static, does this basically make sense? Dynamic and static.
Yes.
Cool. Tahmina, is that your same yellow hand? I'll lower your yellow hand if you're done. Frank, how are you? You're coming into this. Do you see what we're talking about? Do you have questions?
Yes, I understand.
Okay. So we watched a short video, Frank, and I'll put the link in our support materials today. But we're talking about character roles first here. So protagonist, antagonist. Now we've talked about dynamic and static, minor and major. We don't need to talk about symbolic here. But remember last week, I did want to take another moment on this to talk about foil. A foil is two characters that represent totally different points of view or opinions. I think, for example, Kino and Juana are foils for each other in this story, right? I think Kino represents men, and we could even say this really basically, right? Sort of male energy, and Juana represents female energy. But we could also say Kino represents poor people, and the doctor is his foil because he represents rich people. Or maybe we could even say the doctor's servant is an even better foil for Kino, right? Because he is Mexican like Kino. He probably speaks Kino's language. but he changes, right? He goes to work with the doctor. So it's really just, we could also say another example of a foil would be
like evil and like Alex says, good and bad people too.
so, and like, give me the characters that represent that, Linda. Who would that be?
Let's say it's like his brother, the one that he support him, or he like tried to help him when he tried to hide in his house, like
But-
at the end of the story, when he tried to go to the capital and try like to get to his house. So I think like him.
And okay,
Is a
and
good-
so he represents like family or support or help, right?
Yeah.
And do you think there's a person who is the opposite of this, who doesn't help, who doesn't support?
I think the doctor.
The doctor? Yeah, I mean, I was thinking as I was asking that question, I mean, there are, I want to see if I can find the page here. Isn't, they talk about how, okay, I think it's at the end of chapter 5. Hold on one second. I'm here on page 53 if you're following along with me.
Mm-hmm.
There's a part when, maybe it's in chapter 5. Remember when everyone in the village, I was thinking about Linda
Neighbors,
saying,
they were talking about him
they
even.
were right, and but they were not
Yeah.
supporting Kino, right? They were kind of
Yes.
like, well,
Mhm.
that's what you get.
I
You
think
know,
in chapter 6.
Is it in chapter 6?
I think in chapter 6. Where they were talking about him and they said he's still like a lovely person, but they just don't agree with him. They did dislike him. Something
Yeah.
like that. The neighbors, they
think-
wouldn't
I
support
think
him.
in chapter 6, they're already on the run. You saw a little glow. I just think we could even say, so Juan Tomas represents family or support and help. We could say the rest of the village.
65
Yeah, let's
at
see.
the end, like the part then, they sat sadly all day in darkness of the house and they could hear the neighbors speaking of them.
Nice. 65, did you say, or 67?
Yes, 65.
Yeah, that's it. They could hear the neighbors speaking of them. Through the walls of the house, they could watch their neighbors raking through the ashes to find the bones. Oh yeah, they were they thought that they were dead. They were looking for them. Well, again, this is sort of what I'm doing now. The example I'm giving you now is as we're starting to think about, okay, if I wanted to do an analysis of this, if I wanted to say, okay, Juan Tomas represents the family or support or the help that Kino can get. And then the rest of the village represents gossip or non-supportive people. I mean, we can sort of, even if we've only read the book one time, excuse me, we can sort of start to make that list, right? And then exactly like I was doing and Linda was doing, we go back to the book, we go back to the text and find examples of these different things, right? That's how you'd start to build up your character analysis. And we can do that in a second here. Excuse me. But I want to make sure, and then I want to talk about motivation a little bit here. But when it says role of the character, protagonist, antagonist, dynamic and static, minor and major, and foil. That's what I just sort of went through really quickly. Do these vocab words make sense here? Before I move on, I want to make sure that Susanna gives me thumbs up. Thank you. Any questions at all about protagonist, antagonist, dynamic, static, minor, major, and foil?
Can we consider protagonist as a hero of the story?
Yes, and especially because, you know, so many movies now are just about superheroes, pretty easy to think, yeah, the hero of the story. In this case, though, I mean, is Kino the hero of the story? Is he? What do you think? Is Kino the hero of this story?
He's the main character, but I don't think.
He is the main character. I think he is a protagonist. He's a protagonist. Is he a hero? Are there any heroes in this story?
There's no hero except Juana.
Except Juana. Tahmina, we know how Tahmina feels. I love it. Tahmina's all about Juana.
Because I really like her character in this book.
I do too. But again, I'm not being critical of Juana. We understand why, especially this book is 60 or 70 years old, and cultural stuff. We understand why Juana. I think you could argue though that Juana doesn't do enough, right? Juana knows that the pearl is evil, but she still goes along with Kino. She's still running around in the desert, and she's saying, yes, Kino, go get the rifle and kill these 3 men, right? Like, I understand maybe she didn't have a choice. You know what I mean? She didn't have a choice. She's the woman. She doesn't have the power. I understand all that. But I mean, she's not perfect in this story either. This story is complicated, even though, again, at the beginning he says it's only black and white, right? There's only good and bad, and it's a parable, like we were saying, right? Anyway, I think we should talk about the end of the book next week in more detail after we talk about character analysis. But I think you're right, Takmina. If I were going to write an essay, I would probably argue that Juana is the hero of this story, but she's not perfect in this story either. Okay, so then I wanted to make another slide here to talk about motivations. Motivations, as it says in the video, this is the other, we've talked a lot about, I said in the character analysis slide that I've showed you the last 2 weeks, right here, right? What does the character do, right? And then how are their actions connected to the themes? Well, motivations is kind of an even easier way to get at this, because these motivations get us immediately connected to the themes. So for example, the doctor, what's the doctor's motivation?
Get the pearl.
Good. We could even say it even simpler, right, Frank? Get the pearl. I heard someone say it.
Money.
Good. And where did he used to live? What city? And he wants to go back maybe to this city.
Paris.
Yeah. Get back to Paris. Get out of Mexico. Now we could also say, even though we can make some assumptions here too, right? For example, we know from the chapter that we meet him in, he's having chocolate and he's a very fat man. So we could also guess, what is another one of his motivations?
His lifestyle.
Yeah, and part of that lifestyle is what?
Luxury, right?
Food, alcohol, coffee, whatever, right? I mean,
Coffee.
yeah, these aren't, we know, right? We know that.
He wanted a lavish lifestyle.
Good. I love that. Like money. Again, I think everybody had already had it right. Like, money is really, what's the only thing he cares about? Money. And why does he care about money? Oh, so that he can go back to Paris, so that he can have a lavish lifestyle, so that he can buy chocolate and alcohol and whatever else he's doing. But the money is the main motivation, I think, for the doctor. Now let's do another one that's a little bit in this story. What's Juan Tomas's motivation?
Help his brother.
Good. I like that. So Susanna says help his brother. Linda, did you agree?
Yes,
Yeah,
I do.
I think so too. I think so too. So we could say his motivation, family?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, is it just
Supporting family?
His family? Do we think that he feels differently about Kino than Juana? Does he, like, do you know what I'm saying? Is it only like his blood only, or both of them, or what do we think?
No, I think it's
Both of them.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I think so too. So maybe we could say his motivation is family. Fair?
Mm-hmm.
What about Juana?
Her family.
And maybe even, I mean, I think family. Or we could say maybe she's really focused on the baby, especially, but of course that's her family. I mean,
Part of a family, yeah.
I think she's both. And what about Kino? This is where it gets tricky.
Ooh.
I think he was kind of a selfish little bit.
Ooh, let's go. Say more, Linda. Again, let's get controversial.
Agreed.
Yeah, because he was just like a thinking about. Even he said in a story, "I'm a man. I'm a man." Like he just keeping saying this word.
Yeah.
So I think he was just like a more selfish than his wife.
I love it. Good. And again, Linda knows there is that moment where he says, "I'm a man. I'm a man. I'm a man."
Yeah.
And at one point, Juana says, "He's a man. He has to do it." Right. So, okay, Susanna, what do you think?
I just take that question mark and put the plus sign.
Yeah. Yes. So you're saying all of this?
Yes, because it was interesting. This is what I was thinking by reading his character. He was thinking about dressing up good, right? But he was dressing up like holidays, like getting married in a church, because and the rifle and all those
he was mix of love and stuff too. Yeah,
those things are symbolic, and it's not like it does now you rely on his culture. It's not his culture, so it's someone else's culture. So I think he just wanted to be part of them. So he wanted to get married, he wanted the kids to get the education, he wanted for them like a good clothing. That's kind of not culture, so I think it's all of them.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Susanna's doing something interesting there too, which we'll talk a little bit about, but not a lot, which is, okay, when he says we're going to get married in the church, that is some sign of Kino's motivation, certainly. But also the church is a symbol for things, right? So is it a symbol for the culture? Is it a symbol for money? Is it a symbol for acceptance? Is it a symbol for whatever? Like Susanna kept saying the word culture there. Again, really interesting, really, really interesting. On page 23, Andre, just in the chat, I want to come back to this because, here's a sort of preview. I'm probably going to ask you to write about Kino's motivation, you guys, because we could say a lot about it, On page 23, Andre says, the author says that Juan Tomas, they were the world too. And so Andre's saying, does that mean he's an enemy of Kino? So let's go to page 23 and see the quote that Andre is talking about. Again, anytime you guys bring a quote, you got a happy teacher. So page 23, this is right after Kino finds the pearl of the world. And Juan Tomas did down at the bottom. So let's look at these paragraphs here. This goes back to, I think, when I was asking you all about Juan Tomas and his character and his motivation. So it says, all manner of people grew interested in Kino, people with things to sell and people with favors to ask. Kino had found the pearl of the world. The essence of pearl mixed with essence of men, and a curious dark residue was precipitated. Every man suddenly became related to Kino's pearl. Interesting word when we're talking about family, right? Related. So every man suddenly became related to Kino's pearl, and Kino's pearl went into the dreams, the speculations, the schemes, the plans, the futures, the wishes, the needs, the lusts, the hungers of everyone. And only one person stood in the way of that was Kino. So he became curiously every man's enemy. See, now Andre's got an interesting paragraph for us. The news stirred up something infinitely black and evil in the town. The black distillate was like the scorpion, or the hunger and the smell of food, or like loneliness when love is withheld. The poison sacs of the town began to manufacture venom, and the town swelled and puffed with the pressure of it. But Kino and Juana did not know these things. Because they were happy and excited, they thought everyone shared their joy. Juan Tomas and Apollonia did, and they were the world too. Okay. I think that actually, if we were thinking, is Juan Tomas really a good guy or not? I think this is saying he really is, right? Because it says Kino and Juana did not know these things, all of these things about how the pearl sort of made people's greediness come alive, become awake. Kino and Juana did not know these things, because they were happy and excited. They thought everyone shared their joy. And then it says Juan Tomas and Apollonia did share their joy, right? So I think this is actually a big clue, Andre, saying, even though many people in the town are, like I said, their own greed, it's like a light switch for their greed. They're like, oh yeah, I want to get my way. I think that this paragraph, this quote that you found, Andre, is more to say, actually, Juan Tomas and Apollonia were happy for Kino. They were excited for Kino and Juan. So I think you have a great quote. But again, if we're thinking about motivation, I think the quote on page 23 that Andre found, proves, of course, in academic essays, we're used to proves that they were truly excited for Kino and Juana, and they were not evil like the rest of the town. And again, all these things that we've done the past couple of weeks is just examples to, again, start to connect things that are examples from the text to some of this character analysis stuff that we're doing, right? Because that's going to be really, really, really important. Good. Great quote, Andre. Yeah. Oh, thanks. You're welcome. No problem. Thank you for the great quote. And a quote like that one that we just read, it really does two things. For Andre's question, it gives us good evidence to use when we're talking about the motivation for Juan Tomas. But we also get one of these big paragraphs that isn't really, this whole paragraph isn't really about the plot, right? When it talks about the pearl of the world and every man became related to the pearl. This is more about those deeper themes in the novel, right? In the book. And I think that this type of paragraph has much more to say about sort of how the pearl, the symbol of the pearl, how the symbol of the pearl changes people, changes the town, changes things. And then, of course, if we say, oh, well, in the book, the pearl represents money, or the pearl represents maybe even not just, okay, some money. We're talking about like wealth, right? We're talking about lots and lots of money. Well, what is that saying? What is the author saying about wealth and what wealth does to human beings and society, right? That's where we can make those sort of deeper connections. But let's stick just with, again, for characters here. So, we'll go back to Kino, and then I want to talk about one more main idea from the YouTube we watched. So we say is Kino's motivation himself, money, family? One, Susanna says maybe all three. Can you guys think of an example where Kino is thinking of himself? Or let me go to this section. We looked at it last week. Yeah, okay, if we look at this section that we looked at last week, chapter 3, Kino and Juana get new clothes, Coyotito gets new clothes, Coyotito goes to school. Then we get to, okay, a harpoon.
Rifle. The
rifle. Can we think about, are any of these more representative of Kino, his motivation for himself, his family? What do you guys think about that list of things?
His desire. He want to have those stuff by himself.
Good. And which things are for himself, Frank?
Rifle. Rifle is is for himself.
Good. And how about something from that list that is truly not for himself?
Those what they call it, harpoon.
The harpoon.
Harpoon is for the used for the fishing tool.
Okay, so who is that for? Is that for him? Is that about himself? Is that about?
Oh, that's gonna be his family, because that's get the food to his family.
Got it. Okay, so when Kino dreams, I'm actually gonna make this on a new slide. So just some more examples of, how do we do this, or what does that look like? So when Kino dreams about what he will do with money, we see a variety of motivations. For example, when he imagines new clothes for himself and his family, what do we think this shows? When he imagines new clothes for himself, or actually, let's say it this way. When he imagines new clothes, when he imagines buying new clothes, is it for just himself or his whole family?
Whole family.
Exactly. When he imagines buying new clothes, he imagines buying things for himself, Juana,
And
and
the baby.
Coyotito. Exactly. He also imagines sending Coyotito to read,
School.
right?
Mhm.
These examples show, whatever. Again, more academic vocab verbs here, right? Show, prove, indicate, reveal, whatever. That Kino is motivated by what?
Family.
Good. I'll highlight my verbs here. So these examples show, prove, indicate, reveal that Kino is motivated by family. However, he also imagines buying himself a harpoon and a rifle. Now, Frank was saying the harpoon is interesting. Now, we could just talk about this before we practice, before I show you how to write this. The harpoon is an interesting one. Is that something that's for his family? Is that more selfish? Is it kind of in the middle? What do you guys think? Let's go to the text and see. So first notice we see, and the music of the pearl rose. I'm on page 24 here, you guys, and I'll zoom in so we can see this a little bit better. So it says, and the music of the pearl rose like a chorus of trumpets in his ears. Then to the lovely gray surface of the pearl came the little things here at the top of 25. The little things Kino wanted. A harpoon to take the place of one lost a year ago. A new harpoon of iron with a ring in the end of the shaft. His mind could hardly make the leap, a rifle, but why not, since he was so rich? And Kino saw Kino in the pearl, Kino holding a Winchester carbine. It was the wildest daydreaming and very pleasant. His lips moved hesitantly over this, a rifle, he said, perhaps a rifle. And like we read last week, it was the rifle that broke down the barriers. This was an impossibility. This was the, be careful, never be satisfied. That greed question that we talked about. So the harpoon and the rifle do go together, but what do we think? Is the harpoon greedy? Is it not greedy? Why or why not? We could talk about it a little bit. I'll go back to the text. What do you guys think?
Harpoon is a necessary fishing tool, but he extra think he want to put a loop or something end of the shaft. So it's gonna be kind of more than the family.
a little luxury, a little luxury, a luxurious.
Yeah, a little luxury thing. So
okay, I would not say it's greedy, because if he's rich, why he needs a harpoon? Why he needs to go fishing, right?
Because he lost last year. He lost one a year ago, so he may need to this. So
well, that's interesting.
He
so
really
Susanna,
not rich.
Susanna's interesting. I like Susanna saying in this dream, Kino imagines that he will still be fishing. He will still be fishing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what do you think that says, Susanna? That's interesting. I agree that that's evidence. He's sort of saying, okay, we'll buy the clothes, we'll have the wedding, we'll send Coyotito to school, but it's not like in America, right? Win the lottery, I'll never work again. He is imagining something for work. What do you think that says?
I don't think it's a great thing.
You don't think it's greed?
No, I don't think it's a luxury. It's a regular, the day-to-day thing that he wants. He still wants to go fishing. He still wants to do his things, but at the same time, he wants to have the rifle. The rifle, that's a luxury, because he does not need a rifle.
Because he's not a hunter, he's a fisherman.
I think a rifle to protect himself from anything, because he has the pearl, and he like imagine himself a gonna be wealthy person, so somebody want to attack him, as they did in the end of the story. I think it was for protecting himself and his family.
I think it's an interesting argument, but remember now, if we think about the symbol at the end, just think about what do rifles do in this book? In this book, is the rifle a positive symbol or a negative symbol in this book?
Negative.
It's pretty bad. I mean, Linda, what you said makes sense, right? But I mean, it does make sense. But in this book, I think it's pretty clear. The rifle is like, the rifle equals violence, right? The rifle is danger. Rifle is violence. Rifle is anger. But I know what you're saying, Linda. It makes sense. I think, and I think Susanna's interpretation makes sense. The only thing that makes me stop as the reader is when I read a harpoon to take the place of one lost a year ago, a new harpoon of iron with a ring on the end of the shaft. It's kind of like, okay, well, if he lost the harpoon a year ago, but he's still fishing, right? He still does his work. He's still doing his job. Then I don't know. Like, is the harpoon really necessary? Does he need it? I don't know. It's tricky. Like Susanna was saying, well, he's a fisherman. He needs it. That's what Frank was saying too. So again, 50-50. So we could say a harpoon and a rifle. The harpoon might be necessary for his work to support his family. So it might not be a luxurious item. However, on the other hand, the rifle is an example of Kino's selfish motivation. Selfish motivation. And now Linda was saying he wants it for protection, and that makes sense, Linda, but it doesn't say this. When we see this in the book, we don't hear him say, oh, a rifle because I need to protect my wife. Oh, a rifle, I need to protect my family, right? That's not what the author says. We only get this, the rifle, but why not, since he was so rich? And Kino saw Kino in the pearl. Now, all of a sudden, he's not seeing his family in the pearl, right? He sees himself in the pearl. Kino saw Kino in the pearl. Kino holding a Winchester carbine. It was the wildest daydreaming and very pleasant. His lips moved hesitantly over this. A rifle, he said, perhaps a rifle. Yeah, I think in this one example, on the other hand, the rifle is an example of Kino's selfish motivation. And the author writes that Kino saw Kino the pearl. Before imagining the rifle, Kino saw his family in the pearl. Right, so this, I wanted to make sure that I can give you guys a little bit of an example. I'll show you an example character analysis essay next week too. But I don't want to show you an example essay from this book because it's going to be too easy if you can just see an example about the same story. But I did want to see something that we could do together here with this story. So, for example, this is an example of character motivation, writing about a character motivation when we're doing a character analysis. So when Kino dreams about what he will do with money from the pearl, we see a variety of motivations. For example, When he imagines buying new clothes, he imagines buying things for himself, Juana, and Coyotito. He imagines sending Coyotito to school to learn how to read. These examples show, prove, indicate, reveal that Kino is motivated by family. However, he also imagines buying himself a harpoon and a rifle. The harpoon might be necessary for his work to support his family, so it might not be a luxurious item. On the other hand, the rifle is an example of Kino's selfish motivation. And the author writes that Kino saw Kino in the pearl. Before imagining the rifle, Kino saw his family in the pearl. Right? So this is a again, just a sort of really quick and fast example of the type of writing we could do for character analysis when we're looking at character motivation. Questions? Does this make sense? I'll take that as a yes. Let's go to one. I want to have you do this together, and then we'll see where we're at here. So we talked about chapter 3, but we didn't talk about chapter 4 last week. I didn't know where people were, how much they had finished. I wanted to look at this. Okay, this is what I wanted to look at here. I'm going to look at page 56 and 57. This is the very end of chapter 4. And I want to do a sort of an example character analysis activity together. And then maybe we'll end a little early. We'll see how it goes here. So what I want us to think about, I'm going to look at these 2 pages, and we're going to think about Kino and Juana as foils. Again, that means they represent 2 different things or opposite things. And I just want to practice this activity together here. So if we look at these pages, I want you to think about this question. So what are the opposite, oh, I spelled this wrong, excuse me. What are the opposite ideas, motivations, values that each character represents, again, only at this moment in the story? Okay, that's what I want us to look at here. So I want to look, I'm going to start here on 56. I'll read through, and then we're going to think of some examples here, right? Okay. So Juana dropped her stone, and she put her arms around Kino and helped him to his feet and supported him into the house. Blood oozed down from his scalp, and there was a long, deep cut in his cheek from ear to chin, a deep bleeding slash. And Kino was only half conscious. He shook his head from side to side. His shirt was torn open and his clothes half pulled off. Juana sat him down on his sleeping mat, and she wiped the thickening blood from his face with her skirt. She brought him pulque to drink in a little pitcher, and still he shook his head to clear out the darkness. Who? Juana asked. I don't know, Kino said. I didn't see. Now Juana brought her clay pot of water, and she washed the cut on his face while he stared dazed ahead of him. Kino, my husband, she cried, and his eyes stared past her. Kino, can you hear me? I hear you, he said dully. Kino, this pearl is evil. Let us destroy it before it destroys us. Let us crush it between 2 stones. Let us throw it back in the sea where it belongs. Kino, it is evil. It is evil. And as she spoke, the light came back in Kino's eyes so that they glowed fiercely, and his muscles hardened and his will hardened. No, he said, I will fight this thing. I will win over it. We will have our chance. His fist pounded the sleeping mat. No one shall take our good fortune from us, he said. His eyes softened then, and he raised a gentle hand to Juana's shoulder. Believe me, he said, I am a man, and his face grew crafty. In the morning, we will take our canoe, and we will go over the sea and over the mountains to the capital, you and I. We will not be cheated. I am a man. Kino, she said huskily, I am afraid. A man can be killed. Let us throw the pearl back into the sea. Hush, he said fiercely. I am a man. Hush. And she was silent, for his voice was command. Let us sleep a little, he said. In the first light we will start. You are not afraid to go with me? No, my husband. His eyes were soft and warm on her then. His hand touched her cheek. Let us sleep a little, he said. Okay, lots of stuff going on. But again, if we just think about character analysis and the foil, two characters who represent opposite things, and don't be afraid to use key words here, right? We even have some vocabulary words that they give us these opposite meanings. So what kind of opposites do we get even in this short exchange in the book?
The Juana, she wants to throw the pearl in the sea, and Kino does not want it. So she wants to get rid of it, and he doesn't.
Good. And Susanna's even these are just actions, right? That's not even motivation. That's not even deeper, right? That's just about sort of what the character wants in that moment, what action the character wants to do. Absolutely. Good.
I'm scared and fierce.
Excellent. I love that. Strong and or afraid and brave, strong and fierce. Good. Susanna's giving us great specific vocab words from there. And let's be honest at this point in the story. Who's being strong and who's fierce and who's afraid?
Kino is fierce.
Yeah.
And Juana, she's afraid.
Yeah. Yeah. But then it's interesting, right? So it's interesting at the end here when he says, you are not afraid to go with me. And she says, no, my husband. So what do we think? It's really interesting, right? Like, because this.
She obeys him.
Yeah. Tell me, say some more, Linda. Go on.
Like just like he's tried to be as like a strong husband for her,
yes.
A good man for her, let's say, and he just like keeps saying, I'm a man. So like, don't worry or don't scare. I can protect you. I can do whatever for you as a family. But and he's still like asking her, like, are you gonna go with me? And you don't afraid to go with me? And she obeying him, like she just like be as a kind woman or loving woman to do whatever her husband's saying or whatever her husband is asking her to do. So I think it's a kind of like a power as a husband, and then she's just like as a wife, just obeying him as a good wife.
Right. So do you think that Juana is afraid, Linda?
Mm-hmm. She is.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's interesting. What do we think about this? About afraid? Who's afraid and who's not afraid? Anybody else have opinions?
He was afraid, and even he was suffering, he was hurting. She tried to help him, but he supported her.
See, now this is the thing I like to think about. I like what Sanada's here, right? Like at the beginning, it says Kino was only half conscious. He shook his head from side to side. Then he describes the cut sounds very bad, right? Like, and I see your hand, Susanna, I'm ready. But then it says, she brought him, where's the part that it says, oh yeah, she brought him pulque to drink in a little pitcher, and still he shook his head to clear out the darkness. We get this feeling of like, he can't even talk. Like we don't know what's going, he can't talk, he can't see. But it is very interesting. We're so used to thinking man, strong, woman, scared. But and maybe that is what's happening here, but I just think there's interesting stuff going because Juana is the one who's doing everything here, right? Juana brings him the pulque, Juana brings him, she's the one who's doing the actions.
She's supposed to be stronger, more
right.
than she felt that scare from losing him. He was supporting her to make her stronger because she has the ability to help him.
Interesting. Okay, now we're talking about how they're connected and the way they support each other. I love that, Sanan. Susanna, you're very patient. What do you think? There's lots of stuff going on here.
Yeah, but there is also a contrary over here.
Yes, there is.
Afraid, but he's afraid to lose the pearl. So he's holding it really tight, so he's scared like somebody will steal it from him.
Big time.
Yes, and so basically both of them are afraid and both of them are not.
I do think that
full intention.
the
difference.
I think the Kino is he was beaten, he was attacked.
Big time.
But his motivation is still strong. So he want to, even he's beaten, he want to have his mind to farm to get the money to sell the pearl.
He's not scared for his life. He's just scared to lose the pearl.
Good. I think I agree with Susanna on this one. This is what I was going to ask. I think, well, let me ask one question before I give my opinion. Susanna was saying that in this chapter and in this moment, both characters are afraid. So maybe they're not foils for being afraid. Do we agree? Do you guys agree that they're both afraid?
Yes, they are both afraid.
Frank agrees.
Both of them were afraid, but
I think you're right.
Yeah, but one of them has to be or make the other one feel not afraid to go through it.
Good. Good. So now
like each one has his own afraid, like or scare.
That's exactly what I wanted to ask. And Frank was going there too. So Kino, what is Kino afraid of?
To not lose the pearl.
Good. I agree. I think Kino is afraid to lose the pearl. What is Juana afraid of?
Her family, her husband.
To lose her family, to lose Kino, right?
Kino.
I think that's right. I think that's exactly correct, right? So we could say in these pages, both characters are afraid. However, they are afraid of very different things. Kino is afraid, and then I see there's a comment in the chat to lose the pearl, but Juana is afraid to lose Kino and her family. And I think we could say we know for a fact that we know that this is true because we've got this, there's a very clear sentence in here, right, where it says, right here, Kino, she said huskily, I am afraid. A man, she doesn't disagree. He says, I am a man, right? She kind of agrees with him, but he says, a man, she says, a man can be killed.
Yeah.
Let us throw the pearl back into the sea, right? So in this case, Kino is worried about losing the pearl. Juana is worried about losing Kino. And now I think we really can say, well, okay, how are they opposite? How are they different? They're both afraid, but they have very different motivations here, right? What's Kino's motivation? We could have a debate about this, but I still think Kino's motivation is money or family.
I think both.
Linda, you don't want to be, no one wants to be mean to Kino here.
Because he's like, but the first intention of him, like he's just like looking for money.
Yeah.
Like he found that the pearl is a source for better life.
Yeah. Well, and this goes to the
pearl.
Susanna, what do you think?
I think he's scared to lose the pearl.
Yeah, it's almost like
care about his family because putting his family in danger.
Yeah, Andre in the chat, Andre says maybe Juana does not like what had happened, the blood, she's trying to stop it. Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think this is why this book is a good book, right? We know that Kino cares about his family and he wants to use the pearl to help his family, But in a moment like this, it's very clear, right? Someone tried to kill him. He has a cut on his face. He's bleeding. He can't see. And she goes, throw the pearl away. Because I think, my opinion, I think Juana is correct, right? No pearl. If there's no pearl, no one's going to try to kill Kino, right? I mean, the only reason Kino his life is in danger is the pearl. But in this so you can kind of see the choice already, right? Okay, do you want the pearl or do you want your life? You know what I mean? I mean, Kino says, give me that pearl, baby, whatever it takes. Kino says, we're going to go, what's he say? At first light, we have to go over the sea. We have to go over the mountains, right? He says, we will take our canoe and go over the sea, over the mountains to the capital. Like, we're going to go all in. We have to keep this pearl no matter what. That's a strong motivation. I mean, that's a very strong motivation, you know? Yeah. So I'd say something like, again, for character analysis, in these pages, both characters are afraid. However, they are afraid of very different things. Kino is afraid to lose the pearl, but Juana is afraid to lose Kino and her family. This shows the very different motivation for the two characters at this moment in the story. Juana says to Kino that a man can be killed. That's on page 57. Because she is worried that someone will kill him. Try. However, Kino does not care. He says Linda's favorite line, which is so correct, right? We will not be cheated. I am a man.
I'm a man.
I am a man. So we could say again, this is something that we'll look at more next week too. Excuse me, hold on. I got a cough. Pardon me. Sorry, everybody. He says, we will not be cheated, I am a man. This shows that Kino cares more the pearl than his family at this time, at this moment. So for people who like Kino, okay, we don't have to be too critical, okay? But I do think that when you do this type of character analysis, you can say on this page, at this moment in time, you know, Kino cares more about the pearl than his family, even though we know he thinks that the pearl will help him help his family, we know. But so in these pages, both characters are afraid. However, they are afraid of very different things. Kino is afraid to lose the pearl, but Juana is afraid to lose Kino and her family. This shows the very different motivation for the two characters at this moment in the story. Juana says to Kino that a man can be killed because she is worried that someone will kill him to try to get the pearl. However, Kino does not care. He says, we will not be cheated. I am a man. This shows that Kino cares more about the pearl than his family at this moment. And I mean, you could even say more about himself, really, right? Like I, me, I'm the man, I'm the man, I'm the man. Yeah, so I think this is another good example of how these two characters are only main characters in the book, really, are like foils, right? Are opposites, are different versions representing different things in the story. In the chat, Andre says, Kino thinks he is a man. Why does he think about his family? Kino thinks he is a man. Why does he think about his family? What do you mean, Andre? If you can hear me, type in the chat. I'm not sure what you mean with your question. Why does he think about his family? I'm not sure. I think Kino is just saying, I'm a man because that's his way of saying, we're going to do what I want to do. Like I'm in charge. I make the decision. I think I'm a man means I make the decisions you do what I tell you to do. I'm not afraid. I think I'm a man is also a way of saying like, I'm not afraid, I'm a man. I think, why does he think about his family, about the pearl? Well, Andre, I think, well, tell me if this answers your question, Andre. I think like last week we saw when he sees the pearl for the first time, he looks at the, he looks at it and John Steinbeck writes, he could see his family in the pearl. He could see the wedding in the pearl. He could see Juana in new clothes and in new shoes in the pearl. So I think he sees the pearl and he thinks pearl equals money equals help my family, right? And I don't think that Juana thinks that way. I think Juana just thinks family. I don't even think, you know what I mean? Like, I don't even think it has to be pearl equal money equal family. I just think she thinks anything that, I think her mind is just always on her child and her husband, I think, even more than anything else, I think in the book, at least. In this book, that's what I think.
I have a question regarding this chapter.
Oh, yes. And then Andre's saying, why doesn't he think about his family? Well, that, I think, I'll answer that with one, money. Yes, Susanna, tell me, ask me, I'm ready.
So in the end, it says, the truckers were going after them, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I was kind of confused because are they really going after them?
I think so.
Then
yeah, for people who...
the baby was crying, they did not assume that it's going to be a baby and it's going to be some coyote or something else. Why they even think about the baby first if they were going after him?
Well, that's a good question. I think two answers. So one is, you're right. Maybe they didn't know that they would be carrying the baby, or they didn't know that Juana and Kino would bring their baby, or it'd be kind of crazy to take their baby into the desert. I don't know. I think the other, go ahead, Susanna.
Yeah, but but if they were tracking them, they were probably know if there is no baby, even they cannot go without the baby because they were tracking them. So that's
I agree. And I think that's why, again, there's this, at the beginning, we talked about that word parable. I do think that, remember, this story is not supposed to be like a documentary, right? Like a parable or even like a superhero movie, right? It's not exactly like real life. Like some things that happen in this book are almost too perfect, right? Too convenient, too easy. And again, though, that is part of this style of story, this parable, right? In a parable, like it says at the beginning, we talked about only black and white, only good and bad, only yes and no. And I think there is that feeling of, well, if you think about it clearly, like you were saying, Susanna, you'd say, oh, well, that was a human baby. That means they're close. And I don't need to shoot my gun at a human baby. You know what I mean? Like that makes sense. But I think, again, because it's this style of story, you get that's a little convenient, but that's why you get that feeling, right? So it's really interesting because, again, for people who haven't finished the story, but at the end, there's something very sad happens. And I think, because if you knew, Susanna, like if you say the trackers heard the baby crying and they still shoot the rifle, then I think the reader would be mad at the tracker, right? The reader would think, oh, the tracker is the one who kills Coyotito. But really, what does it feel like? Whose fault is it for Coyotito?
It's Kino's fault.
But if the tracker, but I agree, but you don't think that if the tracker was like, that's...
Why are you going to attack them? If you're hidden, why are you gonna attack them and put your baby in a danger, your wife in a danger?
Well, now now again, I agree. I think that's what I mean. Like, why Kino says the only way that things can be better is if I kill 3 people, right? Like that's the last chapter.
Yeah.
He's like, I have to kill all 3 of them. And I mean, that's a strong opinion. You know what I mean? Like that's an intense... We understand, I think, in the story, the author does a good job of showing us why Kino feels that way. But hopefully, as the reader, we're like, oh my God, like Juana said, there's other options. We can do this in a different way, you know?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
kind of showed Kino's greedy personality at the moment, like he's great.
Yeah, that last chapter is where you really see, like you were saying, and then Kino is violent to Juana. I mean, the last chapter is where you really see, okay, well, even if Kino had good motivation, you know, his actions get extreme. His actions get really extreme.
Family in danger, and you know, it was kind of not making sense because I keep reading and reading. I was like, okay, if there is the truckers, then why they shoot towards the baby? If they know it's a baby, because if they are truckers, they know like it's the whole family is on the, you know, they're tracking all of them.
Yeah, I don't disagree, and that's why again I keep, even though this story has this very sad ending, I remember it, to me it is like it almost does feel like I don't know what to say, like a story with some style, right? I don't think it's supposed to be like this was a true story and it was a perfect documentary. There is this style, right? That it's like, okay, they're on the run. Now the trackers are coming. Oh my God, hide up in the mountains. They hear the baby. Is that a baby or is that a coyote? It is that very kind of like a little too convenient, you know?
There is a very old movie, you know, on this story, based on this story.
Yes, I saw the YouTube. I haven't watched it, but I saw that there is an old movie of it, right?
Yeah, because I remember I saw something like that very long time ago. I just like when I was reading it was kind of brought me in images. You know?
Okay, and that's another example of parables, right? Parables are stories that have really simple plot, really simple characters, and maybe they don't feel exactly true, but they are a way for us to think about these big things, right? Like I said, at the end of the story, hopefully we have some feelings. I'm like, whoa, like what does this story have to say about family versus money, or money versus love, or men versus women, right? It's got these sort of really big, deeper symbols, and the plot and the characters just kind of give us a way to think about those things and talk about those things, you know? Now, I want to talk much more about the last chapter next week, and look at some more examples there, because we have a lot more to say about it, I think. Frank, did you finish the book?
Yes, I did.
Good. Andre, did you finish the book? You might have to type in the chat. I didn't hear you. I'm sorry. Did you finish?
I think he did last week.
Okay, good. Maybe he was done last week too. Yes, applause. Okay, perfect. I think Sanad, you're the only one. I know you're busy, but finish up so that we can talk about the ending next week, okay?
Promise I will.
If you can. Like I said, when I wanted to go crazy yesterday, and when I was sick, sometimes you just got to rest. I understand. Okay, so here's my question. Next week, we're going to talk about the final chapter, and next week I'm going to introduce the final essay, right? I'm going to show you an example character analysis, and I'm going to tell you what I want you to do for the final essay. How can I help you practice this stuff? Like, do you guys want more lessons in Canvas? Like, or what do you guys need? It's week 11. How can I help you?
Yeah, can you, I have a question.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, you showed the first time how to write this kind of literature. This is gonna be analyzing.
Yep.
So you show me the the introduction, then
Yes.
middle, then the last. Well, I like to explain to us more how to write more exactly.
Next week I'll show you the whole essay, and what we did a little bit here, and again, forgive me because I'm a little bit sick and my brain is a little foggy. I'm not full on like Kino with my face cut open, but my brain is a little crazy today. But these example paragraphs that I'll post in Canvas, Frank, these are also examples of how to write character analysis. So I'm not going to have you do a whole analysis of the book, Frank. What I'm going to ask you guys to do is to analyze specific characters in this book. So these paragraphs that I showed you today, these are more examples of how to do this type of writing. And then I'll talk more about the essay structure next week too, okay?
One more question.
Yeah, of course.
Do you have to write the page number also in the like you put the 57, you know,
Yeah.
those kind of stuff?
Yeah,
Okay.
I can do it. I can do an in-text citation review if we need to. But yeah, for this book, all you need to do is if you're going to
put the page number.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
And then
okay.
in the chat, Andre says, "Am I right? The oyster did not want to give up the pearl to Kino, and Kino does not want to lose it for free. The pearl deceives Kino. He does not see death and bad in the pearl." Ooh, very nice. There is that moment where the oyster did not want to open. So you can definitely do that type of analysis, Andre, to say from the very beginning, the pearl was evil. We should have known. The oyster didn't want to open, right? I like that. I love that analysis, Andre. That's great. I love that. Okay, so Frank is saying, make sure I show you the structure of the essay, which I definitely will. Definitely will next week. Anything else? Any other things that I can do to help you practice this stuff? Like, do you guys need another homework activity to practice this type of analysis? That's my question. Do you guys want another homework activity? I'm asking, do you want homework? And people are going to be like, no, Jeff, we're not stupid.
Anyone who wants homework?
I know.
No one gonna answer this question.
Well, okay, no one wants homework. That's fine. I don't want it either, but I want to make sure that you feel like you get some practice with character analysis. So that's my balance. I'm so tired, you guys. This semester feels so long. But I do want to make sure.
Anyone who's having that feeling?
Is that you too?
Oh my God, yeah. It's so weird. I feel like this semester is not ending.
It's so long. It feels like it's been 6 months.
Yes, exactly. I was like, oh my God, when is the break? And then I went and searched it up. It's not even close. I was like, shoot.
I know we have 5 more weeks. We have 5 more weeks. So really in that 5 weeks, I want to finish, we'll finish talking about this book and I'll show you how to write the literary analysis essay. I don't know if we're going to finish the other book. Maybe we'll start, we'll see. But here's what I want to do. I'll send an announcement in Canvas then. Here's what I want. Next week, everybody has finished the Pearl, and I guess that's it. Maybe I'm just stressing and like feeling like I need to add more work when we don't need to add more work. I guess, but so Frank was saying more examples of the essay structure, and for sure I'm going to talk about that and have that ready next week. Is there anything else that you guys feel like you want to review more of or understand better that you can think of right now? Are you guys happy? Is everything okay?
Maybe some example. Not too much.
Frank's one of, no, I know. Frank wants more work. I'm like you.
No. I said some example for the literature analysis, so like your previous student did.
I know, but it's always
that I ask you that too much for you.
No, that's my job, Frank. That's my job. It's not too much. It's not too much. I always get nervous to show example essays from the same book though, because I know what happens. Then students just copy, and that's.
Oh, okay.
Maybe
some
not
similar,
you, Frank. Not you, Frank. Not you, Frank.
Yeah, similar. Similar kind of parable. Yeah, parable story.
I know. I wanted to have one ready for you, and then yesterday I was in bed all day yesterday. It was not. I was not very productive yesterday, you guys.
Oh, I see. Hopefully you feel better today.
I'm okay. I'm alive, I guess, Okay. So then I'll send an announcement. Let's finish up for today, unless you guys have questions. Next week, I will have an example essay to help you get comfortable with the essay structure for character analysis. And then if you didn't finish the book, just finish the book. And if you're done with the book already, just take a slow week, chill. Don't stress about this class. Do work for other classes. But if you're thinking, Jeff, this class is too easy or something, just tell me and I'll give you extra work. Okay. Susanna's laughing, but I never know. I just want you guys to feel good. That's all. I want to make sure you guys feel okay. You're learning something from this class. You're having a good experience. That's
Out of all. Yeah, seriously, because you learn and then you don't stress. That's a good combo.
I'll take that. I'll take that as a nice compliment, actually, Susanna. I learn, but I'm not stressed. I'll take that.
Yeah, definitely.
Any other questions before we finish early today? I gotta go eat some more soup, you guys. Well, I'll try to make you stress just a little bit next week when I introduce the paper, okay?
Okay.
Bye, you guys. I'll see you all next week.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. Have a wonderful
Laura.
Thank
day.
you,
Thank
Professor.
you, Linda.
Get
Bye.
well soon.
Take care of yourself.
Thank you. Thank you.